Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be upon you all, and welcome to this new episode of Islam and Natural Philosophy with Dr. Basil AlTaie. And today, in this new installment, Dr. Basil is going to talk to us about another principle of the 5 principles of Daqiq Al Kalam. And today it is contingency and indeterminism, correct?
Yes, that's right. Ahlan, Ahmed. You're
Dr. Basil.
welcome. And I thank you for your care on these episodes, which I hope, will be having a great effect and influence on the new thinking in Kalam.
Inshallah. And I would like to point all the audience's attention to the ticker. So you will, of course, there is the address of Dr. Basil's YouTube channel, where I would really encourage you to go there and subscribe because he's got some pretty interesting content there too. And for those who are watching this one on a different channel, you also have my channel here. So Finding Truth's channel, you can go there and subscribe. And if you're just watching this without being subscribed, please do subscribe, so that you'll get the notifications in due course. So, Dr. Basil, let's maybe start the presentation where you are going to take us through what is contingency and indeterminism in terms of principles.
Yes. This is actually the fourth principle, which I can identify from my studies in Kalam, or the natural part of Kalam, the natural philosophy part of Kalam. And it is very much dependent on the previous principle, which is recreation, as we will see.
Yeah.
The question is again about the motivation. One has to say that, because it's important to relate Kalam to its motivations. The religious motivations for this principle could be attributed to the belief of Muslim that Allah is all-powerful, omnipotent, with absolute free will. Absolute. So Allah fa'alun, as it says in the Quran, fa'alun lima yurid.
No.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be active all the time. And as we said, this activity comes through the process of recreation. That's what the Mutakallimun has explained. I mean, how the activity of God is executed in this world. It is executed through, I repeat again, through recreation. But this means also that which explains, as we said, the change. But this means that the events in nature are contingent. And here comes the principle of contingency. Also, it means if God is recreating the world, we can prove it mathematically. If there is a recreation, there will be indeterminism. And there will be uncertainty, similar in measurements, similar to the uncertainty of Heisenberg. I say similar because until now we cannot find the constant, which is on the right-hand side. But there will be indeterminism, and this indeterminism is rather general, not only restricted to so-called compatible observables. Never mind, Mr. Ahmed, that these are a bit specialized concepts, like the word compatible, non-compatible, etc. Never mind, that will come later. We'll explain it. The rational motivation of this principle is to explain again the change, as we said, in the world, and allow for the system to occupy any possibility, or many at least. If we don't say any, we say many possibilities. This makes the principle strongly tied up with the previous one, as I said. Events in the world are assumed to be contingent, and by the principle of recreation, as I said, one can deduce that the world is indeterministic.
So the reason for the contingency and that it cannot be deterministic is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is intervening and doing what he wants, then it cannot be mechanical, right? So this is the concept.
To be contingent means that it is not necessary.
Okay.
I mean,
yes,
it's always contingency, necessity.
Yeah, the opposite is necessity.
If you say it is necessity, it's a necessity, then that means there can be no change.
Yeah.
A necessity is a condition imposed on things. Anything you say, this is necessity, it is necessary, it is a necessity to have water as a liquid. Then you can't have water as for example,
any other form,
as a solid, any other form, or a vapor.
Yes.
If you say it is necessary that water must be a liquid, no, it's contingent. As it changes, it's contingent.
It depends on other things.
Yeah. Also, the existence of things, the existence of things. For example, the 92 elements in nature. This is contingent. It is not necessary. But sometimes people think that everything is necessary, including scientists like Albert Einstein, who thought that the universe is necessary. It is not necessary, in spite of his theory of general relativity, which gives us which tells us that the universe must have a beginning. At the same time, Albert Einstein thinks that the universe is necessary. But what is the necessary condition, Mr. Einstein, or any other guy of this? There is no answer. Yeah, because if you say it is necessary, then there should be a compulsory condition imposing itself within this necessity.
Yes. Otherwise, you cannot give it this feature of being necessary. If it could have existed, it could have not existed. So,
but mind you, if you think that the universe is static, as Einstein was doing in the beginning, then it may be necessary. Because I give again the example of water. If you say it is necessary that the water be a liquid in a liquid form, then there should be, as I said, a condition imposed on the molecules of water which makes it liquid. And that will be the only possible state. No other state is possible. But once no such condition can be imposed, the water can take the form of a solid or a gas or a vapor, etc. The condition for creating the universe and having this universe with this specification is not necessary. But I agree, there is a fine tuning, as you know. But the contingency to make it or to have it as a system, complex system, needs a creator, for sure. But if you want to do without creator, you will fall in the fallacy of saying that the universe is necessary.
Necessary, and then you will also have problems explaining the fine tuning, and you will have to go to multiverses and form and all the other kind of inference to try to explain them fine tuning and other phenomena. Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Let's go back to the
Yeah.
slide, please,
Yeah.
Mr. Ahmed.
Here we go.
So now, what is indeterminism? Indeterminism is that we can predict the contingencies of happenstances, or the contingency of the happenstance of any event expressed in the form of a probability.
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot predict which contingency will happen or which probability will take place at which time.
Yeah.
And this what we are calling now, or scientists, physicists are calling conditional probability. I mean, this conditional probability came to being actually in the early years of the 80s, 1980s. Perhaps it was Paris and also somebody else called Don Page, who suggested the conditional probability in quantum mechanics. I mean, what does it mean? It means that this event would happen at such time, and therefore the probability which we calculate in quantum mechanics is a time dependent. This is a slightly a paradigm shift. Actually, it's a correction, you can say, for the basic quantum mechanical paradigm, which is put under the postulates of quantum mechanics, the basic postulates of quantum mechanics.
Okay.
Now, this necessitates the existence of a particularizer. What is particularizer? An agency of order. An agency imposing order that would assign a particular event to take place at a given time.
Okay, makes sense. Because things at the end happen and they look, the universe looks harmonious and consistent. It's not, things are not jumping around.
Again, because it is consistent, because it is contingent. If it wasn't contingent, you don't need a particularizer. You don't need an agency which put the events in order.
Yeah, if everything was mechanical, then one event will lead to the next event, will lead to the next event, so it will be okay.
A big clock,
Yeah,
a mechanical clock.
Absolutely. Which was the Newtonian vision. The Newtonian vision was like everything was like clockwork.
That's right.
Yeah.
Such a particularizer cannot be one of the physical laws of nature. Why?
Because they are contingent themselves.
In this case, it will have to abide by the same rules of indeterminacy.
Yeah.
Such a law has to be contingent also, and has to be indeterminate. And then we will need another particularizer ruling out such a law. Therefore, we say the particularizer has to be outside the physical world. I hope you see, Mr. Ahmed, I think you are competent enough with the philosophical argumentation and to figure out that here, when we say that the particularizer has to be outside the physical world, we are not using the traditional or usual religious argument that Allah is outside the world. Why should be outside the world? You have to explain that.
Yeah.
And that is my approach in Daqiq AlKalam, in the new Kalam. My approach in the new Kalam, I don't put the religious belief as a prime condition on deducing. No, I can only take the revelations, the word of God, the Quran, as a hidayah, as a enlightenment.
Yeah.
The rest is for my brain to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. It will show the direction, and then you need to walk the path.
Otherwise, if you argue and you say God, because he is God, he has to be outside the world, this is not enough reason. This is no argument, in fact.
Yeah.
So please also watch that. I mean,
Absolutely.
in this argument, it's quite worth it. It is quite new.
Yeah.
Anyway, because of what متكلمون and specifically the Ash'aris, Al-Ash'ara. The Ash'aris were the prominent leaders of this principle of contingency and indeterminism. Some of the Mu'tazili also supported this principle, but not all the Mu'tazilis, unfortunately. I mean, some people may comment on our episode saying, well, Dr. Basil, you are actually expressing the views of Ash'aris only. No, it's not only Ash'aris. Al-Qadi Abd-Jabbar al-Hamadani, who is one prominent Mu'tazili, in his book, أبواب العدل والتوحيد, it's not a book actually, it is an encyclopedia, 21 volume, in 21 volume.
21
we have in our hand, thanks to the Egyptian editors who got the copies from Yemen of 14 volumes.
Wow, mashallah.
أبواب العدل والتوحيد, Ibrahim Madgour and several great Egyptians who studied these books and actually edited them from the manuscripts, which was written long time ago, long 10 centuries ago. They revived them and they put them in the right. أبواب العدل والتوحيد is a big encyclopedia. Also, المحيط بالتكليف. In المحيط بالتكليف, the book المحيط بالتكليف or the المجموع بالمحيط بالتكليف, القاضي عبد الجبار, who is Mu'tazili, he says the same thing, even giving the same examples of al-Baqillani. So here I want to correct one general myth which was distributed, unfortunately, originally by some Orientalists who didn't understand the full picture of Kalam, I mean, and Mutakallimun, like Massignon and the others, the English guy also. There were many studies as early as the beginning of the 20th century. And unfortunately, some of the Arab and Muslim scholars picked up what those Orientalists have said and they adopt it.
Okay.
Like, for example, Mohammed al-Iraqi, an Egyptian philosopher and professor of philosophy, Cairo University. They adopted this view that the Mu'tazilis are deterministic, while Ash'aris are not deterministic, are indeterministic. Mu'tazilis believe in contingency, Ash'aris believe in contingency and indeterminism, and Mu'tazili believe that the things have fixed nature. But this is not true. Not all Mu'tazilis.
Not all Mu'tazilis. Yeah.
Not all Mu'tazilis. More than 50% of the prominent Mu'tazilis have expressed their view in agreement with the Ash'aris on this issue.
Okay. Interesting.
The Mu'tazilis, mind you, Mr. Ahmed, if you study Kalam in detail, including the theological part, not only the natural philosophy, but theological, you will see then where the Mu'tazilis differ from the Ash'aris. They differ on the theological part. Great
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Great difference. But on the natural part, most of the Mu'tazilis are in agreement. As I said, Qadi Abd-Jabbar is repeating the same argument of Abu Tayyib al-Baqillani. Al-Baqillani is Ash'ari. And he's giving the same example. He says, for example, if it is for the nature of water to create growth in plants, then it should create the growth endlessly. That is to say, there should be no limit for the growing. The more you put water, the more it will grow, your plant. And perhaps a small tree will become 50
A
meters,
mountain.
for
Yeah.
example, as long as you give water. And the same example is given by Qadi Abd-Jabbar in Muhit bil-Taklif. If they are not in agreement on this issue, how could they repeat their argument?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it turns out, which is logical, that if you are
Yeah.
enlightened with the Quran and you look at the natural world, you should reach the same conclusions.
Yeah. Now we go back to the slide and talk about
Yeah.
occasionalism.
Occasionalism, yeah.
The Orientalists have spread the idea that Ash'aris are occasionalists. That is to say, events in nature happens occasionally. There is no law. This means that there is no law for the happening of, and this was called occasionalism. Why? They said recreation will lead you that since God is doing or ruling the world with his absolute free will, and since he can do anything at any time, he can turn water into, for example, asphalt, or make water burn the cotton, not extinguish it. This is occasionalism, but this is not the case. Indeterminism is not meant to be occasionalistic. And this occasionalism, which means that God makes everything according to his volition, is not expressed in the right way. And this is one of the main points I want to correct in the history of thought, in the current history of thought. In the new Kalam, I take the regularity of the natural phenomena to argue for the existence of a law of nature.
Yeah.
A law of nature. And mind you, law of nature is different from law of physics. These laws may not be deterministic, though, but not occasional. They are not deterministic. They are indeterministic, I agree. But this does not mean that they are occasional. Occasional means happens haphazardly. Haphazardly. You cannot predict when it will happen with what probability. But this is not the case.
What will be the word that متكلمون use in Arabic for occasionalism?
They didn't use occasionalism. They used ممكن. For contingent.
Contingent. Okay. Because if they thought of occasionalism, yeah, they should have created a word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a word. And for indeterminism, they used محتمل. Or جائز.
Yeah.
Or محتمل, indeterministic.
Yeah.
Contingent means, or they use the word ممكن. The opposite of contingent is necessary. واجب.
Yeah.
واجب. Yes. The new Kalam adopts the world is contingent and not necessary. This doctrine is fully supported by modern science, specifically quantum mechanics. Therefore, there is nothing occasional once we know that the events of the world take place according to specified laws and determined, not deterministic, determined regularities.
Yeah.
Now, what is the difference between law of nature and law of physics? This is very subtle, very subtle point.
Yeah.
Because all Western scientists and philosophers have made no distinction between, unfortunately.
Doctor, before we go into this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is recreating, and hence everything is contingent on his recreation. But since it is his will to keep things in a consistent way, he recreates things so that there are observable laws of nature, right? This is a point. He could have willed a different thing, but he didn't will it because
where the law comes from. The law comes from the regularity.
Yeah.
And the regularity presupposes conditional relationships which are causal.
Yes.
Causal relationships.
Yeah.
So the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have designed the universe, pre-designed the universe to be contingent. Why? To have his freedom. His freedom, not our freedom.
Yes.
Second, he recreates, but according to certain laws. It's not the recreation without a law. That's why we call recreate. He's not creating only. He's recreating to create a drop of water, for example, or to create. Recreate it, you have to abide by the same condition and the same creature you have created.
Yeah.
If you create an electron, and to recreate it, you have to recreate an electron, not a proton.
Yeah. And this will cause the regularity that we see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you have the regularity, and that's why you have to fix. You have the fixed entities. As I said, an atom is composed of a nuclear, say hydrogen atom, of a nucleus, which is a proton. And you have an electron also in the hydrogen atom, the simple hydrogen atom.
Yeah.
If God is going to recreate without a law, then the electron may become a proton, and the proton may become an electron, or both may become an electron, or both may become a proton.
Yeah.
No. The rule is recreation. An electron to be recreated as an electron. But maybe in a slightly different position, slightly different momentum, that's possible. Why? For us, it is. We don't know what will happen. Because under recreation, there is indeterminism involved. Inherent indeterminism.
Yeah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only the first cause, he is the cause.
He is continuously the cause. And he acts according, he respects his volitions. He respects the design.
Yeah.
He respects the design. That's why you see in the Quran, when he talks about other creation, he says, نشأة أخرى.
No. Yes.
New
rules. Yeah.
قل سيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف بدأ الخلق.
Yeah.
Go through around on earth and see how the creation all started.
Yeah.
And then say كذلك
ثم الله ينشئ النشأة الآخرة.
It's another creation.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stick to this. It's a different creation. Otherwise, we would say, how would one be put in a Jahannam and Jahim, and he stays alive and he feels if temperature is more than 100 degrees, we will lose every sense.
Yeah.
What nonsense is to say that you are in Jahim, you are in the. It's a different creation.
Different rules. Yeah.
Different rules. Different
Yes.
universe. Different
Yes.
universe.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some people do not understand that, or they
Yeah.
don't want to understand.
Yeah. Even
If you
even
want
actually, he actually says that وبدلت الأرض غير الأرض والسماوات.
والسماوات
Yeah. So
والسماوات,
the whole
exactly.
system is different now. The
Changed.
whole
The
system
whole
is different.
system is
Yeah.
changed, and the
Yeah.
rules is changed. The laws are changed, and now we have to understand what is laws of physics and
And
laws
what
of
is
nature.
laws of nature? Yeah.
Laws of nature in the New Kalam are those regularities of the phenomena bare of any specific explanation.
Okay.
It is the natural phenomena as it happens.
Hmm.
As it happens. Laws of nature are probabilistic, according to quantum mechanics, and the outcome is predictable but not deterministic.
Yeah.
Now, laws of physics are the description and explanation. We go. I give an example always, laws of nature, that fire burns cotton. This is a law of nature. But when you say, well, the burning of cotton is taking place when the energy transformed by the fire to the cotton extinguishes or the cotton by rising the energy level of the molecules, then you are talking a law of physics. So
Hmm.
the laws of physics are descriptions and explanations which we give to the causes or the phenomena happening.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's our
Yes.
explanation. And
Because
this,
it's built on models that we build. The models need not be actually completely
exactly,
accurate.
it can change. It can change.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
example, once upon a time, there were a theory of heat called the phlogiston. They think the
Yeah.
phlogiston is a sort of fluid
Yeah.
that goes from the hot to the cold body.
Mm-hmm.
And this is causing them. But it turns out to be, this is wrong.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, for example, Maxwell, to explain the propagation of light in
Yeah.
vacuum in space, he assumed or used the ether,
Yeah.
and he had many diagrams, hundreds of diagrams, explaining how the electric field and magnetic field is produced by the interaction of the charge with the ether. And then it
Uh-huh.
turned out that there is no ether, apparently.
Yeah.
Why is, I mean, so that where the science, is a law of physics.
Mm.
But if you say light propagates through space, yes, it is a law of nature. With
Yeah.
the speed c, yes, with the speed c.
Yeah.
This is a law of nature.
Yeah.
But why it is c? Why this much? 2 or 3 multiplied by 10 to the power 8 meter per second,
Yeah.
300,000 kilometer per second. Why is that?
Yeah. And why it has to
Well,
be this has to be the top speed in the universe, and why
yeah,
other
here
things?
we
Yeah.
need the theory. Here we need a law of physics.
Yeah. Okay.
The indeterminism of the laws of nature is proved by quantum mechanics, I repeat and repeat,
Mm.
because we have to understand how it works. It
Yeah.
remains for the choice of the creator to
Yeah.
put it at work, any of those contingent states, because according to quantum mechanics, by the way, any system, any physical system, is not stuck on one state. It can have many states.
Yeah.
An electron in the position x at the time t can be at t plus dt, a very small time,
Yeah. Mm.
in another place, in x
Yeah.
plus dx,
Yeah.
another position. And in both cases, we can calculate the probability, but we don't know whether this probability will be achieved, whether the event will happen or not.
Or not? Yeah.
No, that's so we say it remains for the particularizer or the
Yeah.
creator to decide what to happen.
Yes. Yes. And you mentioned here that the laws of physics are generally deterministic. What do you mean by that? And
Yeah,
how?
I mean
Yeah.
by the deterministic that it gives you a fixed result,
A
that
formula.
a formula, and the
Yeah.
result is this,
Yeah.
that there is a psi or probability of event 1 is say 93%. Probability of event 2 is 2%. Event 3 or state as we say. These are
Mm.
contingencies
Yeah.
for the same system.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
which probability will take place?
Yeah.
And on which state will be actually taking place? I always say as the example, fire burns cotton, but it may
Mm.
not do so.
Yeah.
No matter how low is the probability
Mm.
of not burning the cotton,
Yeah.
but it is there. All contingencies can happen, but with certain probability, and these are calculated as they call it according to Max Born rule.
Mm.
Nonetheless, there is a law of physics that can tell which probability. There is no law, as
No
I said,
law. Yeah.
no law of physics which can tell you which probability will happen at any time. This brings us to the question of causality.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Does it mean that there is no causality at all? In fact, if you study Kalam properly, and if you go to early mutakallimun and the late mutakallimun like Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, Abu
Mm.
Hamid al-Ghazali in his book تهافت الفلاسفة, the incoherence of the philosophers, have presented the Islamic view of the causality by
Yeah.
saying, I will summarize what he says. He
Mm.
says the fact that fire burns cotton for us is contingent. It is not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It is a law, but it is not necessary. Laws of nature are not
Not
necessary.
necessary. Yeah.
And he say it is conjunction, or as the Ash'ari said, the Ash'aris, it is the custom.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of current philosopher like Frank Griffel, in his magnificent book about Al-Ghazali and causality, he says custom of God. It is not custom of God. Again, you see the Orientalist or the non-Arab.
Mm.
The
Mm.
non-Arab
Yeah.
does not understand the word accurately.
Yeah.
You know, when we say you are Ahmed, you are an Arab.
Yeah.
When we say مستقر العادة, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean necessarily is the عادة of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe مستقر العادة of the nature.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the way things will happen. Yeah. Typically. Typically.
It's the
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah.
So it's wrong to say it is the custom of God. It's not custom of God.
Yeah.
God has no customs, actually.
Yeah.
It's
It is his
his
choice. Let's say it is his choice
choice.
that things happen this
It's not
way. Yeah.
custom. It's his
Yeah.
choice. And the
Yeah.
choice is open always. It's open choice.
Yeah. He
But
can change.
according to rules,
Yeah.
the
But he
new
has said.
Kalam understanding,
Hmm.
the new Kalam, the understanding of Abu Hamid al-Ghazali is well explained by a very simple argument, showing that what he believed as a rule is the law of nature. He negated miracles happening haphazardly. in the example he gave in his book, but at the same time he's respected that there is certain regularity. In short, the new Kalam says that we have causes and we have causal relationships. We have the causes are not necessary, but causal relationships are necessary. In other words, causality is divided in the new Kalam in two parts: causal determinism and causal relationships. The new Kalam negates causal determinism. The world is not deterministic, but approves causal relationships. In order to burn cotton, you must have fire.
Fire. Yeah.
And I mean burn in the classical sense.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, well, I can bring oxygen and oxidate the cotton.
That's a different topic. Yeah.
It's a different concept there.
Yeah.
So the availability of the requirement for the happening of a phenomenon must be there.
Yeah.
Somebody may say water may burn cotton by some sort of, for example, he says, well, water is hydrogenic bonds. What if two hydrogen, H2 separated, and then they get burned or produce an energy which will burn cotton?
Yeah.
This will not happen. This is a zero probability.
Taking it too far.
Taking it too far. So this is not what it is meant by contingency at all.
Yeah.
So causal relationships are maintained, again, I say, and maintains the requirement for causal events, but does not necessitate the occurrence of the phenomena. This is exactly what quantum mechanics say. Finally, I stress the need for a law that is algorithm or law to describe the causal relationships, but not necessarily to determine it.
Yeah, it must happen.
Can predict it, but not determine it.
Yeah. So
I think here I can stop in this talk.
So to summarize, Dr. Basil, since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is recreating, then nothing is necessary, because not only does everything needs to be created, but also to be recreated, otherwise it cannot be sustained. And since it has to be recreated, it is contingent. That means it is not necessary. And since it is being recreated and contingent, it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can intervene. So a cause will not definitely and for sure cause its effect, because there is the small probability that Allah will a different thing in the next recreation. This makes the natural order of things and miracles in one consistent framework, essentially.
Exactly. The miracle, don't forget, miracle is a very rare event. Some people misunderstand miracle. Miracle basically is a very, very, very rare event. What is it? What does it mean in terms of probability? It means a very, very improbable event.
Yes,
that's
absolutely. Absolutely. So
what science agree.
So at the end of the day, we can say that having this view of the world does not mean that things are occasional, but it means that causes will not cause its effect with a definitive sense, but there is a chance for things to go a different course if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills it. And that this gives us as people who believe in theology and in science a worldview that allows for God's free will and also allows for a regular and consistent universe in which we can calculate and live a natural and normal life.
That's right. It's a coherent view.
So thank you very much for one more exciting explanation of the fourth principle of Daqiq Al Kalam. And until we meet again, I would like everybody to like and share this video to the ones who are interested and to your loved ones, and to join us in the after show. If you have questions, put it in the comments or put it in the link to the after show, and see you then. And also join us next week for our upcoming episode, inshallah. And thank you very much, Dr. Basil.
Thank you.
May Allah reward you for that. Jazakallah khairan. And for everybody, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all.